Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about monitoring student progress and more specifically, checking initial placement. And this has to do with Read Naturally Live, our flagship intervention that focuses on fluency, phonics, comprehension, and vocabulary. Checking initial placement is the first phase of our two-phase monitoring performance process. So at the beginning of the school year, we do a lot of work to get ourselves up and running, right? To get the program set up for your students, to get them placed, to get students trained and how to do the program properly. That all happens very early on in the school year. Then for the rest of the school year, once everybody's up and going, what we do really for 8 of the months, 8.5 of our months of our school year, is monitor student performance and make changes as needed, right? So what we're going to talk about today is that first phase, which we call checking initial placement. And whenever we're monitoring student performance, it's of course important to keep in mind that our primary goal is to maximize achievement, right? And intuitively, I think educators understand that in order for us to maximize achievement, we need students working in a level that is challenging. We need them being exposed to words and concepts that are a little hard for them in order for them to make as much progress as possible. But we also know through maybe our gut and for sure through our experience that if it's too hard, they'll get frustrated and you'll lose them. And that is a very hard thing to come back from. So we want students in a Read Naturally Live level that is challenging, but not to the point of frustration. We want their story goal within Read Naturally Live to be something that is reachable, but that they have to work hard in order to be able to reach it. We've all set goals for ourselves at some point in our lives. And we know what it feels like when we reach a goal that we knew was really hard to reach, right? And you also know what it feels like to reach a goal that maybe wasn't quite as hard. And that difference goes a long way for students. So their story goal needs to be something that they're able to meet, and so they can pass a story and feel success at the end of each story. But it also needs to be something that in order to reach it, they had to practice several times, stay focused, and learn new words. And that challenging but doable story goal will maximize achievement along with having them in a level that is challenging. So we are thinking of those things always during both checking initial placement and keeping students challenged over time. So when I say checking the student's initial placement, ideally that happens after about 3 stories. You want to take a look and basically ask yourself, are they in the right spot, right? We have a feature within Read Naturally Live called Data Mentor. And Data Mentor monitors student performance at both phases, and it provides suggestions to teachers to improve implementation. So it tells teachers whether or not the student needs a higher level or a higher goal. It'll even tell the teacher if they need a lower level. It only does that usually if students are doing very poorly on the quiz. So if you think back to placement in Read Naturally Live is done solely based on fluency within the Read Naturally Live program. And so Data Mentor will also take into account comprehension data, all right? So today, again, we're talking about that initial phase. And if you're not familiar with Data Mentor, if when you saw this slide and you learned that there was something in there that provided you a suggestion on a change and you weren't aware of that, the place you can find it, there's actually 2 places, but it is always available on the Pass Review Work page. So if you take a look at this screenshot I'm showing, notice at the top of the student's screen, it has all the steps that students go through. The student is currently on the pass step. She's already done her reading for you. You already graded her open-ended question, and now you land on this pass review work page. And these tabs across the top are available. When you land on here, typically, story details is what you see. There's lots of things you can do from there, right? You can look back in the story at the quiz questions. You can look at their difficult words. So there's lots of data on that story details page. There's also good fluency data on the next tab over, solid comprehension information on the comprehension tab, retell, number of words read, and the final tab is Data Mentor. And if there is a red dot on this Data Mentor tab, it means that there is a suggestion. It tells you what the reason for that suggestion is over on the right here, where there's that explanation portion. And you're able to click the accept button and make the change immediately if you agree with it. If you don't agree with it, you can ignore it. Okay. Now there's another place you can find Data Mentor at any point. So if you're thinking, oh, I didn't know Data Mentor was in there, but I don't want to wait until the Pass Review Work page, you can also access it through the student menu in the teacher module. So take your eyes and notice this button with the picture of the apple and the word teacher on it. This is our teacher menu button from within the student module. So you're able to click on this whenever a student is working, and the teacher clicks on this and enters her login information. And from there, you can do all sorts of different things, including looking at data, changing levels, changing story options, all sorts of things. But the Data Mentor feature is also under that teacher menu button. Okay, so at any point when the student is working, you can check and see if there's a Data Mentor suggestion. So when we are talking about checking a placement, we want to remember that how conducting initial placement happened. And I mentioned this just a moment ago, but it's important to mention again that initial placement is based on fluency. Now, you're also likely looking for some students, maybe if they have phonics issues as well. But for Read Naturally Live, you're basing it on fluency and not at all on comprehension. And we do that for a few reasons, but one of them is we want to get kids in that intervention and working, right? And so a 1-minute fluency assessment on a few passages is a much quicker process than getting into all the other elements of reading. So we give them a quick placement in conducting initial placement. It's checking initial placement that's going to allow us to have a lot more information, a lot more data, and make a more educated decision about what is the exact right spot for the student, not just for fluency, but also for comprehension. So basically what you're doing is you're taking the data from the first 3 stories that the student works in, and you're comparing that to initial level criteria. Meaning if the words correct per minute score for the student's goal timings, if I had that information on placement day, would I still have put them in this level? Would I still have given them a story goal? Those are the kinds of questions you're asking yourself. Okay. So as we go through the next few bit of this program, of this presentation, I'm going to be asking you several times, I'm going to be asking you questions about different student data. Okay, I'm going to have some sample data that we're going to go through, and you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to decide whether or not the level is too easy and the student needs more of a challenge. As you can see, that's like a green flag, like they need to go on, they have to move higher. So you're either going to raise the level or goal if it looks like things are too easy. If it looks like students are in the right spot based on their initial level and goal criteria, then they can stay the course, right? Smooth sailing, keep them going. And then if they are in a level that's too hard, their fluency scores are too low for the level, their comprehension is too low, then the level or story goal needs to be changed. Okay, so those are our 3 options. So it's either continue in a level, raise a level, or lower a level. The place that we get the data is a report called the Students at a Glance report. Okay, I'm going to show you how to run it in a minute, but first I just want you to see what's in here. If you take a look at the far left side, the series and level are listed first. So this student is working in sequence series level 2.5. Okay, notice that there are words that are written vertically directly above each column. So that is telling you what is in that column. Tells you the day the level was started, the number of stories that have been passed. Now, the next 3 sections all are providing you with average data. If you look at the heading that's going vertical, underneath each heading, there's some words in parentheses. So this first column is cold timing, and then in the parentheses you can see we have first 3 cold timing scores, and then followed by the most recent or the last 3 cold timing scores. Okay, so this is not a fraction, this number here. This is 2 separate numbers. They're just separated by a forward slash. And the reason the numbers are identical is because the first number is the average of the first 3 stories, And the second number is the average of the most recent 3 stories. And this student has only passed 3 stories. So her first average of first 3 are the same 3 as her most recent 3, okay? So that you're only going to have identical numbers up until students pass 4 or more stories, okay? Then you have the average story goal, average hot timing score, average expression rating, number of practices, the average percent correct on the quiz on these 3 stories so far, words in the retell, and in the phonics series, you'd have how long it took them to read a word list. So let me show you how to generate this report. I'm going to log into the staff member module. I'm going to log in as a teacher. And I am going to go to the home page, and then I'm going to navigate over to reports. From here, I should mention, I'm going to go back to the home page. From the home page, you have a tile titled reports, but you can also access it through this drop-down menu. If you notice, this drop-down menu has the same headings that are listed in all these tiles on the main page. So you can click on reports from the drop-down menu, or you can click on the tile directly. The first couple of reports are administrative reports. You have your student roster, their passwords, that sort of thing. So the reports we're talking about today are these Read Naturally Live reports. When you click on that button, the first one that becomes available is Students at a Glance. Okay, that's what we're going to use. You can select the students that you have that you want to run the report with. You can select one at a time. If you want to select all of them, you can hold your shift key down while you select the student at the bottom of the list, and everybody will be highlighted. So after you've selected however many students you want to run this report for, you click Generate Report for Selected. You need to adjust the date range depending on how long you want, what the date range is you want to run the report. What I will tell you is that it always starts as August 1st of your current school year. So if you just want to see how they've been doing this school year, you're not going to have to edit that, okay? Then you click Generate Reports. Oops, got one that doesn't have any data in there. I'm going to go back and generate a report. I think I didn't go back far enough. There we go. Sorry about that. Here we can see that we have 3 different students in our report. The students who in a level that the student has only passed 1 story, you can see the cold timing, 2 numbers are identical, hot timing are identical because she's passed 3 or few stories. But when we get to a student who's passed more than 3 stories, we can see that her average cold timing in this case started at 46, and then it got up to 69. The average comprehension started at 87, and now it's at 100. So you get 2 different numbers when there's 3 or more than 3 stories. If there's 3 or fewer, you're just going to have the same number just repeated twice, once for the first 3 and the average of the most recent 3. Okay. So now that you've seen how to run that report, let's talk about what we're going to do with that information. We're going to take the average cold timing score that I just showed you in that report, and we're going to plug it into our placement table. We're basically asking ourselves is if this was the word correct per minute score that I got on placement day, if this was the number the student produced for me on the day we did placement, would the computer and I still have thought this was the right level for the student? Right? Struggling readers are nothing if they are not inconsistent. And so they have good days and bad days, and placement may have been one of the ranges, right? Maybe a really good or a really bad day. And so there's an adjustment might be needed. So we're basically taking that number, that average words correct per minute score from the cold timing, and we're plugging it into this table. If the student reads in this level 1.0 to 3.0 or any of our phonics levels, then the words correct per minute score should be between 30 and 60. If it's not, it means an adjustment is likely needed, okay? If it is between 30 and 60, then they're in the right spot. If they are in the right spot on this placement table, it means that from a fluency standpoint, this is a good match for that student. But now we have a lot of quiz data as well, comprehension data. So you want to make sure that the student is understanding at least well enough to stay in that level. So we want the student's quiz to be at least 60% or better. I am not saying that we are happy with 60%. We always want our students at 80% or higher. But we know from research that students are able to make comprehension gains if they can understand at least at 60%. So that's where that number comes from. It's not arbitrary. It's if students can understand at 60%, they'll be able to make gains. If they're only understanding at 25, 30%, it's so hard for them that it's not going to be sensitive enough to measure their gains. Okay. So let's take a look at a sample from Rob. We're going to ask ourselves first if he's in the right level, and then we'll ask if he has the right goal. But let's take a look at Rob's data. So here we have Rob's data from the Students at a Glance report. I'm going to have this data visible on my slide. And I want you to answer the question. I'm not going to reveal it until I give you a minute. The question is Rob's average cold timing score in the range for his placement level? So you need two pieces of information. You need to know that he's currently working in level 3.0. You also need to know what his average cold timing score is. Right now it's 70. So you take 3.0 and 70 and you bring it up to this table. So in level 3.0, that means his words correct per minute score is this top row. And we want it between 30 and 60 for us to think this is a good match. Rob's is 70. Okay, he's outside the range on the high end. I think because he's outside the range on the high end, if this was placement day, the computer would have said, nope, 3.0 is too easy, try 3.5. That's what the computer would have told you if he had gotten 70 on placement day, okay? So right now I'm thinking it's maybe a little too easy for Rob, but let me make sure he's understanding well enough to stay there or to possibly be moved up. And in Rob's case, his quiz is at 89%. So yeah, he's way above 60. So his cold timing score is outside the range on the high end, indicating it's too easy. His quiz is solid enough. Would you raise Rob's level because it's too easy? Would you lower Rob's level because it's too hard? Or would you continue Rob in level 3.0? So raise, lower, or continue. In this case, because his words correct per minute score is outside on the high end, that indicates to me it's too easy. So I'm going to raise him to level 3.5. Okay. Because I'm raising his level, I'm not going to raise his goal. I'm not even going to look at it because you want to raise one thing at a time. Raising two things at once tends to overwhelm students. So we'd put him in 3.5. And when I got to the pass review work page, when I was working with Rob, I would notice that there would be a red dot on this Data Mentor tab. So I would click on the Data Mentor tab and see that the computer is suggesting we changed Rob from 3.0 to 3.5. If I click accept, it happens immediately. This change will be applied to the next story. So the student still gets to see their medals from that story they just passed. But then after they see their medals, they're going to be brought to the next level. So now we can see Rob is no longer in 3.0. He's now in 3.5, right? So Rob has needed a higher level because his words correct per minute score was outside the range on the high end. Data Mentor will provide you with that suggestion. Okay, let's take a look at another student, Anna. Same report, Students at a Glance. We're pulling Anna's data now. Anna is a student whose average cold timing score in level 5.6 is 90 words correct per minute. So when I take level 5.6, it's going to be this third row down, and 90 is right smack dab in the middle. So if this was placement day, the computer said, yep, 90 is good. This is the right level for Anna. You'd be done. Okay. What about Anna's quiz? Her quiz is at 89. So she's doing very well on comprehension. Her words correct per minute score is right within the range. Her comprehension is strong. So what do you think? Should we continue Anna in 5.6? Should we raise Anna to a higher level, lower Anna to a lower level? Because her cold timing score is in the range and her comprehension is good enough to stay there, I'm going to continue her. Now, sometimes people say, well, her comprehension is pretty strong. I think maybe she could handle something harder. For a seventh grader to be reading only 90 words correct per minute, that is slow. So we want her to stay in that level, okay, until she is more automatic with those words. But it does, because we leave the level the same, doesn't mean we have to leave the everything the same for the student. So we can take a look at the goal. Maybe we're going to keep her in 5.6, but maybe we could raise her goal a little bit. The student's goal for a student who's in fourth grade and below should be about 40 words correct per minute away from the cold timing score. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The student's average cold timing score for young students should be about 30 words away from what their goal is. For fifth graders and above, that number is 40 words away. Okay. We want their average hot timing score, or their average pass timing. We say pass timing and hot timing interchangeably. So we want the student's average pass hot timing score to be close to the goal, at or above the goal. Now think about that for a minute. When your student goes through all the steps of Read Naturally Live, they get to the final reading and you listen to them read that final pass hot timing, right? In order for the student to pass, she has to meet her goal. That's one of the requirements. So her average hot timing score is going to at least meet that goal. And if it's way above that goal, it indicates it's too easy. You also want her practicing between 3 and 10 times. Okay, so now I have all this written information here in a picture form. So you can see that the average cold timing score should be 30 for young students, 40 for older students away from the goal. So this is the blue line, is that average cold timing score. The average hot timing score is going to be pretty close to this goal, a little bit above is very common. Okay. And the differences between these should be about 30 for young students, 40 for older students. So let's ask ourselves these 3 questions about Anna with her data present, okay, with us looking at her data. So Anna's goal, the first question, does it exceed her average cold timing score by about 40? Her goal is 120 and her average cold timing score is 90. Okay, that difference is 30. We want it to be 40. Okay, the way I remember it is, if it's a double digit away from where I want it to be, double digit difference, that means a change is likely needed. So I want it to be at 40, it's only at 30. That's a double digit number between where I want it. So I'm thinking she might need a little bit harder goal. If on placement day Anna scored 90 words correct per minute, the computer would have given her a goal of 130. The computer would have taken 90 and added 40 because Anna's a 7th grader. Okay, so right now I'm thinking the goals might be low. The next thing I'm looking at is the difference between the hot timing and the goal. In this case, it's 12. Again, we have a double digit difference, right? Average hot timing score is 120. I'm sorry, average goal is 120. Average hot timing is 132. We have a 12 number difference. So again, I'm thinking it's a little too easy. She could probably handle a higher goal. She is practicing the right number of times. Okay, so right now I have 2 things that make me think she could handle something more and 1 that doesn't. Okay, so 2 is bigger than 1. We have 2 reasons why we think she could handle something more, and that is the majority. So we're going to go ahead and raise Anna's goal. Okay, Data Mentor would have that little red dot on that tab, and it would suggest to you to change her story goal from 120 up to 130. If you click accept, that change is going to be made when she goes to the next story. She's still in 5.6, but she has a goal now of 130. Anna's average hot timing score is 132. So it's not changing the goal to something that's going to be incredibly hard for her to reach. It's going to be a little harder for her to reach. And that's what we want. Frequent, small increases in difficulty. All right, our final student today is Lee. And we're taking the same Students at a Glance report to look at data on Lee, who's a 3rd grader working in 2.5. Okay, here's all of the data on Lee. So in 2.5, the range for his cold timing is 30 to 60. The first column in this gray section is where we find the average cold timing score, and that's right within the range. So if Lee had read 41 words correct per minute on placement day, the computer would have said, stop testing and pick this level. This is a good spot for Lee. Okay. So right now I'm thinking 2.5 is likely a good place for him to be. What about his quiz? Is it at least at 60%? Yes, his average quiz score is 87%, so it's very strong. So his cold timing is in the range and his quiz is good enough. Everything indicates to me that he has the right level. Now, again, sometimes people will say he's doing really well on the quiz, but again, think about how slow 41 words correct per minute is. He needs to build his familiarity, his automaticity, his ability to read with ease the words at that level. So we're going to leave him there until it becomes apparent that he's ready for something harder. Because we are leaving him in the same level, that means we can take a look at his story goal and see if that could change. So we have 3 questions when we're looking at story goal. And again, same report, students at a glance. We're going to take a look at the difference between the goal and the cold timing. Okay. We want that to be about 30 because Lee's a young student. He's only a 3rd grader. And it's 29. It's just 1 word away from where your goal is. So that's good. It's a single digit. You're not going to get much better than that. If he had read 41 words on placement day, the computer would have given him a goal of 70. Okay, so I think it's right for now. Let's look at his hot score and his goal. It's only a 4-word difference. So again, it's going to be at least at that goal, or he's not passing the stories. But if it's within a single digit difference from that goal, then you're in the right spot. You have the right story goal. He's practicing the right number of times. So everything with Lee indicates that he's in the right spot. His words correct per minute goal is right. The difference between hot timing and the goal is correct, and he's practicing a good number of times. So I'm going to keep Lee going. So on that pass review work page, that data mentors tab is still listed up there, but there's no red dot by it. Okay, so what you're looking for when you are wanting to see if there's change suggestions, you're looking for the red dot. But the Data Mentor tab is always clickable. And if you click on it when there's no red dot, it's just going to tell you that Data Mentor does not have any suggestions at this time. Okay. So it will let you know. That's basically saying we think Lee's in the right level and we think he's got the right story goal. Doesn't mean you can't change it if you have a different opinion. You can go in and manually change it anytime you want. But based on the student's data, Data Mentor does not believe that that's necessary. Now, remember at the beginning, I promised to show you where you can access these Data Mentor when a student is on a step other than the pass review work page. So again, that teacher button in the upper right corner, you click on that, it brings you to the teacher menu, and you can see 3 down is where the Data Mentor is. Notice the suggestions exactly the same as it was from the other page. Data Mentor does not have any suggestions at this time. Okay, so Lee's in the right level. He's got the right goal, story goal. Data Mentor agrees with it. There's no suggestions. So Lee's just going to keep on going until he's made enough progress for us to think that a change is needed. And that second phase is what we call Keeping Students Challenged. We will be having a webinar on Keeping Students Challenged pretty soon. So check out our website, register for that. But that concludes the checking initial placement part of monitoring student performance. So thank you for your time and your attention today. And as always, please reach out to us. That's why we're here. We would love to help you look at your students' data. If you want somebody to walk you through running a report or walk you through analyzing the data, we're here to do that. So please call or email us and we can support you throughout the school year.